we're definitely going to talk about our favorite stuff. But do you have a process that you like when people, or like ideally, a director comes to you? What would you like to that conversation be like?
Well, I mean, I hate watching horror movies, but I love writing music for them. I think this is one of the most creative genre. You can kind of work and be very free. My approach is like I create a lot of sounds. I'm sure like everyone here does. Produce them, create, record, all the stuff. So for me, like I try to find some element from the story or from the from the picture, but like sometimes even from the story. Like if I read the script, there's like something, some item that is like whatever torturing people or something. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what I can do with this little element. Maybe it's like it's a metal sound, maybe it's like a glass sound, maybe it's something like that. For example, with Barbarian, the director just told me like, oh, I love woodblock. And I'm like, okay, woodblock is like kind of just not a very scary sound. And so I sampled different woodblocks, and then I kind of processed and pitched them down and did grooves and like loops and stuff like that. And basically the whole soundtrack, although it's like there's like a lot of sounds in it, but they're somehow connected to woodblocks. This is like a very cool way of creating this soundscape for the like very specific soundscape for the project. And I find directors really like appreciate it and love it versus like just I'm gonna use like just random string ensemble and just like do whatever like effects with it. So once you come with this unique sound to the picture, then it kind of glues together the whole movie. It's somehow very interesting effect of like if you find this sound that hits the picture perfectly, then you're like golden. So I think it's that kind of
I think it's so cool that you guys find unique things to use. What is the most unique? I mean, you guys have talked a little bit about it. What's the most unique item you've maybe used in a soundtrack?
A vibrator, no.
I have used a back massage.
Oh, okay.
Was it a touching?
It was, I remember, it was some weird brand, but yeah, it was just against my hand, and changing like the pitch and frequency and stuff doing that.
Pushing the microphone. I should say this to everybody. Yeah, a back massager, and I was just rubbing it into my hand, and it turned into a instrument where the pitch could change. So you could get like the beating would slow down, kind of in interesting ways. It's really fun.
Anybody else weird?
I think the weirdest thing the thing that it probably would mention is that on the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, I scored a lot of it with a beehive, violin that was inside of a beehive for 2 years, and the bees put their hive inside the violin, and then we pulled it out and put it back together, and I played it, that's very strange.
Very sweet sound.
Why did that happen? Why did you do that?
Okay, so
Candyman.
I can't claim that I'm like a genius because it happened before they even made the movie, right? Like when they hired me to write the music, I remembered reading a New Yorker article about this guy in San Francisco who was an experimental luthier who like plays around. A luthier is somebody who builds string instruments, so violins, guitars, cellos. And so his whole thing with his handle on Instagram is violin torture. So he like destroys violins. He'll like put them on the grill and just to see if they would sound how it sound, or put a violin into a dishwasher. Mostly it's like performance art because violinists think it's like sacrilege to destroy a violin, and I love that. That he's doing that. But I remember reading the article thinking, this guy's so cool. And the last thing he said, when the interviewer was asking, what are you working on now? And he said, I just put a violin inside of a beehive to see what would happen. And so I sent him an email and tracked him down, sent him an email, and I was like, hey, whatever happened to that violin inside of a beehive? And I swear to God, his response was, "Oh, I forgot that I did that." So I said, "Don't touch it. If you want, like, I'm going to come up with my manager. We're going to film the whole thing. We're going to pull it out." And it had been in there for 2.5 years. So the bees had completely transformed it into their hive with honeycomb on the inside. It's all on the YouTube and the behind. It's on the Blu-rays and stuff. But it sounds really weird. And I thought it was just going to be me, like, as a gimmick, but it actually sounds different and weird and creepy and gross. Yeah.
We kind of got. Does anybody else have anything like weird that they do?
I love doing that. It's not as weird as a beehive, but on it's called The Other. The movie I was talking about, I actually used a bucket of slime. And I recorded weird sounds like pulling it apart. When it became pulses, it became all this stuff. I dismembered a Barbie doll and recorded myself doing that, and it became all these different weird sounds. And then I used a lot of samples of bird calls, and those are so eerie. I was able to play them melodically or whatever. Like, it's a very strange sounding score.
You had me scared of birds. So.
Yeah, they're creepy.
Don't do birds. Okay, so we've done weird stuff. Is there something that you always constantly have to have? Like, I know there's stuff that you maybe like always kind of want to like go towards. That like, this is kind of my signature piece. Like, I love to use this instrument or this kind of thing. Is there? No.
Interesting question. Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, I even don't have. I mean, maybe the composers will understand. I don't even have any template. I start with like I always try for each project just to create new templates with all the new sounds or stuff like that. Yeah. Well, that's.
What about you?
I started out as a drummer, so I tend to do a lot of percussion stuff in there. But I mean, that doesn't mean it has to be drums. It can be with strings or with a voice or anything like that. What instrument did you start out with? What was your first?
Well, piano and accordion. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Accordion.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's a cool one.
That is a really cool one. I played accordion for a while, a long time. Anything with keys.
Right, you have the. I mean, you try to use the.
That's what I was going to say. I try to always put my instrument on my scores. I made a double guitar because I'm a classical pianist who has too much energy to sit for too long. And I have a big protest against the regular guitar because it's like, what about my whole left hand? So anyway, I made an instrument and patented it, which is a left hand and a right hand. So I try to put that on every score because I realize you play a little bit differently when you play different, when you kind of have to rethink about something, like we know the piano so well, right? And it's like kind of reapproaching it and getting out of your head and kind of getting to the point where you see it for the first time again, or you kind of get lost in it again. It becomes important because you get, if you're a musician first, you like I am, it's like you get kind of locked into your training and all that. So I feel like turning things around. Like one time I put on Miserables, which are what you put on to play a sitar, and I played like a whole glockenspiel, like a piano with Miserables, and it sounded really cool. It was a little tinklier than I would have gotten on like, using a patch or whatever. So anyway, I mean, anything to throw you off, I think, as a composer, if you're, especially in horror, it's, I think, really fun.
I compose everything on my acoustic guitar first, and so I'm a guitar player, and so no matter how it's going to be voiced, I always start with the acoustic, and so I typically will somehow at least bury a pass of some acoustic somewhere on everything, even if it sounds like a full-on traditional 80s synth horror score. There's going to be a lot of acoustic guitar that's been within processed in a way that makes it sound like I'm playing a synth, but that's my instrument, though. That's the thing I love the most, and it's the most ridiculous thing to try to compose on because it just doesn't make any sense. But that's also one of the reasons I love it, is because you can just sort of with tuning at any point and take it out of the linear mode that a keyboard's always in and try to do that unwiring the way your brain processes music, because otherwise you just keep playing the same melodies. You can get trapped in yourself, and so it's really fun to have an instrument that is as malleable as a guitar. So you just like pick two strings to just go, and all of a sudden everything's different. And that's always where I start, and that's the thing. It's going to end up in everything, even if you don't hear it. It's there. It's always there.
Just quickly, I wanted to say I did a soundtrack called Psycho Storm Chaser for a movie called Psycho Storm Chaser by Buzz. You know Buzz?
Yeah.
Mutual friend of ours. Oh yeah, you're in the movie as the yeah. I forgot. Well, it's like
just my voice.
Yeah. Oh, no, and so that soundtrack had like a deluxe CD release, and I hired my friend Marty Brugman, who used to have a podcast called Underscore Podcast. So I was like, Marty, can you do like an analysis of the score? And in the analysis, which I didn't see until he like submitted it, he said that I invented a scale, and I don't believe him because like I feel like every scale exists. But just because he said that, and he's a very smart person, I try to use that scale on all of the scores.
Interesting.
I'll take notes.
Yeah, I think last time
It's 9 notes with the octave, so it has 8 notes plus even octaves.
Sounds like some kind of Klingon shit. What is this?
microtonal. Yeah, Ron Sword, the guitar maker. I like synth, but I think that's on everything, but it's not. So I don't really have anything that's on everything. I thought it was, and then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I did a whole score for this guy, and there's like barely any synth on it. Yeah, Steven, I'm pointing at you. But yeah, like that Supercon, there's barely any synth in there. It's like one cue.
Okay, so what about, like, what do you avoid when you're composing horror? Is there anything that you avoid? Is there like a sound or something that just like you're like, this is too cliche, this is too much, like, or is it just everything is on the table because you might want to like be reminiscent of the genre in some way, or is there something that's just like, I don't want to do this anymore?
What's that song like? Da 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 da. Anything goes. Da, da, da. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it could all be depending on whatever the footage is. I mean, you got something comedic in 80s, you got all sorts of things. Action, horror blends with everything. Horror is essence. Horror is life.
Yeah, I think that's why horror is so fun. Is we can do everything. And I've done orchestral scores, I've done synth scores, I've done weird sound design scores. The only thing I ever try to avoid is something the director hates. So I've had some that hate certain instruments, so I avoid them. So.
Well, that's what, like you said, is there anything that's too cliche? Sometimes the cliche is the thing that's fun about, like, Scream or something, where you're like, oh, we're going to lean into the campiness of this cliche in horror, and it becomes its new, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, cliches exist because they work. That's the whole thing. They work every time. It's just, are you wearing the cliche out? So there's never anything that should be off the table. What can we put on the scene that's going to make me feel unnerved? That's going to prickle those little senses in me that makes me go, ooh, because that's what I want to do to you. It's all about creating an emotional response. And music is the best way to do that. And so, yeah, I want to be scared. I want to scare myself. But like I said, it doesn't create fear. Once it's out of you, it's out of you. Usually after a really good scary scene in a movie, the first thing everyone does after like gasping or screaming is laugh, because it's such a big emotional release, and it's a real kind of, I'd like to think of it as a real gift to give the audience, to have that sort of moment where they go, oh God, and your sting or whatever help push them over the edge, but then they laugh. So it's a little moment of grace to give people. So yeah, you have to scare yourself. You have to like put yourself in that position in order to make sure that that's going to land.
And you not liking horror movies, how do you feel about it?
It's curious because I noticed that, like, for example, like I'm now working on a horror movie. It's kind of a like horror comedy, whatever. But so there are like a lot of gore moments, and so there were several test screenings already, and like, let's say I have half of the movie written, like my score, and the other half is like a temp score, and so basically all the scenes that are in the scene in the part where there's my score, so I kind of worked on the scene. I'm not afraid. I'm like, whatever. Like, I can watch them whatever million of times. The scene that I haven't scored yet, like there's like a scene with like cutting eyes with a spoon. It's like really ridiculous and disgusting, and I can't watch it. I'm like in the theater like this. I don't know. That's the trick. Basically, when you work frame by frame, you're like, oh, whatever. Like I know it, but yeah. So that's how I survive.
You just have to be in control of it.
Yeah.
Like, you're in control of the scare. Yeah. But you still scare yourselves, you guys. You do?
Try to.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know if I like jump scare myself, but like, because you have to understand that when we're working on these movies, they're not color corrected, so it's not as dark.
Yeah.
You know, the sound design isn't there, and so like I remember when I was working on Winnie the Pooh, the first one, they just kind of sent me such a raw mix that it had like the crew laugh, because it's Winnie the Pooh like. The first one was like rubber gloves, and you know what I mean. And he's like slapping somebody, and then the whole crew is like laughing. So it was really hard to be scared of that one. But on this last movie I just worked on, The Avalanche, that is submitting to festivals right now. There were some times where like I wasn't quite jump scared, but I got that little like tingle that you get where it's like, ooh, this is the right timing for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not like jumping out of my seat because I'm putting it there, but I'm like, no, this is the right amount of time. And at the end of the film, for whatever reason, I can't tell you, but you'll see if you watch it. We put the last bit of the film, we took all the score cues from the whole movie and had them playing at the same time, all stacked on top of each other, and it made me feel nauseous. So I was like, this is gonna, if it's making me feel nauseous, this is gonna work. And that's how you know?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's like an avalanche or something.
There's an avalanche.
Spoiler alert.
I think also if you have someone you can try it out for, like my husband hates horror movies. I have to go by myself to everyone that I see. And I know if it throws him off, then it's good. But timing is very important. Like you inch something a half a second, and you could just ruin. It's like comedy. It's the same. It's kind of actually most similar to comedy, maybe.
Yeah, I think horror and comedy go together really well, and a lot of the stuff you guys have all worked on, like combined genres, like especially comedy and horror. Like, is there a nice balance? Do you look for genre bending more than just like straight up horror?
Definitely.
Is that the best case scenario? When yeah.
I do, because there's some beautiful horror music, like really pretty. You know, I mean, The Exorcist. You know, I remember my time. But it was so beautiful. That's why I thought, oh my God, it's edgy and it's fun, it's chaotic and it's beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know. It's like kind of like that rule of like, if you want something to be really sad, make it funny, and if you want it to be funny, make it really, really sad.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one.
Robin Williams said it.
I was like,
Maybe it's just a quote, but to me, it's a rule because Robin Williams said it.
But you're right. Like a lot of it is like very beautiful. Like I often like think of like the Poltergeist one with just Carol Ann themes. It's like very little kid. It probably reminds me of all the soundtracks I did as a kid. Because it's just that weird like weird spooky stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, what is your favorite genre to like bend? Before I put this major question on you guys, what genres are your favorite to bend together?
Cyberpunk horror and splattercore.
Jeez, so specific. You horror comedy?
Yeah, horror comedy.
Yeah. Horror comedy?
Yeah.
I just last winter I did the music for like a Snow White horror like fantasy called The Death of Snow White, and it was really fun. My pitch to the director was, what if the Braveheart score was a horror score? And that's what we did. We kind of blended that fantasy, like, you know, music with horror music, and it was fun.
Braveheart wasn't a horror movie?
Braveheart was...
Did you do the trance remix? You know, because that's hot.
Yeah.
Braveheart trance remix. You know? 99 in the house.
Anybody else to add?
Horror drama, I think. I think that's where you can get some of that beautiful music, like Nomi was talking about.
Yeah, I'm nuts for anything that's, roots music. So you go like anything that feels that Southern Gothic, where you can go really romantic or really horrific with that Southern Gothic vibe is something that I live in and love because it's so open to really rich options.
Yeah.
This is the difficult question that you guys have. You're new, so you haven't answered this question. But with respect to the composer, the original composer, if you could take any film and recompose it, what would it be? Respect to the composer that originally did it.
This is kind of different because I would love to reproduce like a different re-record and like produce it differently. The score to I don't know what we call it, the book or whatever, to Little Shop of Horrors. The music's great. I just think production-wise, there's so much stuff that could be done now. I think that's what's interesting about indie horror stuff is like the production is such a huge part of it, and I feel like when movies start to get bigger and bigger, less experimentation happens in the actual like recording of the music, and I miss that stuff in like bigger movies. But yeah, in the horror movies, it's so nice to hear people talk about putting microphones in weird places, like making weird noises out of goo, doing that kind of stuff. That it's like it's so refreshing, and everything sounds different because people are trying different things. And that's what I think, like something like Little Shop of Horrors, the music is great, the singing is great, Rick Moranis is great.
So you're talking like a musical, not like not necessarily like,
taking like the actual music and re-recording it and actually producing it with a more contemporary vibe would be really interesting. So I wouldn't really be writing the music, but that's what
Okay, this is going to sound like a dig, but it's not a dig because I know them through a friend and I love their music. But I've always, and I'm not sure I'm the guy, but I've always been curious to see, especially the first season of Stranger Things, with a John Williams type score, like an Amblin orchestral score. I've always been curious to see what that would be like.
It's so weird. I telepathically sent it to you. I was
that
like,
what
that
your
would be a
answer was
fun
gonna be?
job, but I'm not going to say it.
It's like, yo, Kyle, come at me, bro.
No, oh God, okay. I'm going to make last time I answered this question, I went on a tangent. I'm not going to do that this
I
time.
think I helped you with that tangent, though.
Well, it's a good, okay, so here we go. I'm going to stick with I thought about this a lot after we discussed this at the last panel, which hopefully you'll join us again for. So I invited myself to supplement a score that already exists, which is the score for The Brave Little Toaster. The songs are amazing. It just needs more of them. And I missed a song. There's a technology song in it. So there's City of Light, B-movie, then the technology song, and then the song Worthless, which is a great pitch to kids. Like, let's crash these cars and turn them into worthless pieces of garbage and then let them just sing their last little soliloquy and then just die forever. Totally horrific. So I argue it's definitely a horror film. It definitely needs more songs, and I would still just like do anything to just go, to David Newman's little studio and be not born and then go and do that. That would be fun.
I'm not born flex.
My answer is still Tetsuo the Iron Man. Violent, oppressive, great.
Anybody else?
I went very Switzerland when I answered this last time, and I would do the Birds since it doesn't have a score, Hitchcock's, just to see what it would sound like with a score. Yeah.
But you would use bird sounds or something like that.
I could, well, you know what? I'd avoid bird sounds. I would do like a retro 1960s Bernard Herrmann type style to see what it would have sounded like.
You would use a violin that's been inside of a bird's nest for 2 years.
Exactly. That's the only way to do it.
Or cricket.
Just birds as drumsticks. Just
We have said that this one is too much.
This one is so easy for me. Last House on the Left. The score is ridiculous and undercuts what is an otherwise really horrific film. And there's moments of just, Keystone Cop buffoonery bullshit in that movie that destroys what is otherwise a really deeply affecting film. And so, yeah, that one, easy. That movie score is terrible.
OG? Or
Yeah, the OG,
and not what is it?
No, the remake has a pretty decent score and is also the horrific, scary movie. But the first one, the Wes Craven classic, it's a hard to watch film, but every so often it's like, it just goes really dorky really fast, and those have got to go. Very strong feelings about this.
I think that might be your Southern, being like, I don't want Southern people to sound like this kind of thing.
Quite possibly.
Like the deliverance of you being like, no.
I didn't come here to be psychoanalyzed, Anastasia.
I would do. I mean, it's not a horror movie, but I would really want to do like No Country for Old Men. I could do really. There's no score there, but to try it would feel amazing. I mean, any Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Everyone's out there, right? All right. Okay, so we're wrapping up.
Play some Skinner. I just gotta say that.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about everybody's projects and stuff, but I really want the remaining time just to tell people where they can find you and what's next for you and how they can support you. So let's start with Rob.
So we got Gaslighter coming up. That's going to be on Shudder as a part of Etheria Film Night. Follow me at RXBXT on pretty much everything. And Spike and Mike's Film Festival is back, and we got a short in it. So really excited about that, Shark Baby. And then stay tuned because there's lots more coming.
You can find me on all the socials at Andrew Scott Bell, or you can Google me, Andrew Scott. You can Google any of us probably, and find our websites and Spotify and Apple Music and stuff. I just finished a movie called The Avalanche, which submitted to Sundance. So, knock on wood for that. I would love to go to Sundance. I've never been to Sundance. But we're also submitting to South by and a couple of other places. It's a really cool project by a director named Johnny Coffeen, who was one of David Lynch's proteges. So it's very twisty, very is this real? And I was honored to work with him on it. And I wrote the score in 5 days, which was insane, so that we could make the Sundance deadline. So I'm very excited for that film. It's some of my favorite work I've done so far.
I am not online at all. I deleted my socials 3 years ago. I'm really just never updating my website. I do everything word of mouth. I'm really hard to get a hold of. But it's not helpful.
Don't try to find
answer at all. It's just not. I run myself like a social experiment, just kidding. But it's been great, I have to say. But however, I'm not even here. So good luck. I know. So let's see. Well, okay. That's not entirely. I do have a website. NomiAbadi.com is my website, and I did just start an Instagram page for my musical, but it's not exactly me. It's called Secondhand Souls. It's Secondhand Souls Musical on Instagram, and I swear I'll get on TikTok at some point because I want to do piano and guitar and all kinds of stuff. But it's been so nice not being online. So.
And Holly.
You can find me on most of the socials at hollyamberchurch.com, and I have a website. I've got a couple vinyls coming out soon, one next month for the other, which I'm not sure if I was allowed to announce that or not, and then one for a Tiki documentary coming out soon called The Dawn of Tiki, about Dawn the Beachcomber. So it's exotica music and completely different from my horror stuff.
How fun. Exotica. Wow. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at the Sean Keller. You can also find me on Bandcamp, where you can get my Killer Sounds of Halloween albums. There are 4 of them. All of them are weird little Halloween mixtapes from another universe. And I'm doing scoring a movie called Witchcraft that's hopefully going to be around next summer. Working on a new musical that'll hopefully be premiering at Midsummer Scream next year. That's the goal. So.
I am on Instagram, but I'm not I rarely post anything. I'm very lazy about it. So working actually like on several projects right now. They're all of them are going to go mostly to festivals. One is a German movie I'm really happy about. It's not a horror though. It's drama called Eurotrash. Then there's like 2 horror movies coming out called Corporate Retreat and Forbidden Fruits. But also I recently finished the ballet, and it's Great Gatsby. It's actually now touring in US, and they're now performing on the East Coast, but coming in November to West Coast. I know they're going to perform in Santa Barbara, so if you guys do want to check it out, I mean, it's not obviously a horror score. It's like very dramatic ballet music. Yes, and I'm also releasing a play in London next month. It's called The Wanderers. But yeah.
My name is Matt Glass. I'm on Instagram, Glass Brain, I think. I have a movie coming out next year called Grind, the anthology movie Frogman Returns. Also next year. You never know. And then there's a documentary. I have a documentary about a band I was in 20 years ago called The Brobecks. The documentary is called The Brobecks, Not Dead Yet, and it's about 20 years ago. And anyway, that's coming out at the end of the year, I think. And that's probably everything.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you, Anastasia.
No, we'll squeeze in for a photo.